Hi, so it's been a while since I posted anything. It's been a while and a lot's happened. I was planning on doing the videos with the updates, but life didn't go to plan. Mum passed away in June last year and everything went to shit. So obviously we knew she wasn't well. We all knew that she was going to die, but none of us thought it would be that soon. Just after the incident in January, when I went for an interview at St George's and she tripped over at King's Cross because her leg wouldn't work. She seemed to almost get better. She got in a car of Motability. She'd started getting out and she'd just got a lease of life back. And then I can't remember what happened. She had kidney failure and then something else, and she just rapidly went downhill. And to see somebody you love decline so quickly, it was really hard. One of the worst things about that was when she was going through her kidney failure is we had the doctors come out because she was too ill. I couldn't drive. My brother couldn't drive. We had nobody else that would be able to take her to the hospital. And they came round and they went, "Oh, that's just what happens. Like, it's just the cancer." But the thing was, it wasn't. And had we just agreed with them, we would have lost her a few months earlier, because it wasn't, and it was something that could have been cured. But they said that it was just a natural part of process and that the cancer had just got into her brain. But we had ended up getting a Macmillan nurse, and she came round and immediately went, "Oh no, this is curable. Like, the doctor should have prescribed her this, they should have done this." So they started her on treatment. She went into hospital. She started having regular blood transfusions because her iron was really low and there was a problem with the calcium. I think at the time, I know my brother and I, we knew that it was coming close to the end, but we didn't think it was. It was almost like we wouldn't let ourselves believe that it was. And anyway, so the last week of school comes and I'd been sick Monday, Tuesday, and Mum went in on the Tuesday to get another blood transfusion. It was just one of our routine ones, but there'd been a problem with them getting her blood, so she had to stay in overnight. And that was all fine, you know, I was used to being by myself. It was the normal kind of thing. But then Wednesday morning I woke up and I was fine. I should have gone back to school, but there was something that felt wrong, and I rang up sick, said, still not well. And I then got a call about an hour after that asking us to go in. So we rushed in because they said it was urgent and that we needed to be there. And I see my mum, she'd had a massive bleed and she was very, very sick. So I called my brother and he came like rushing from work. And when we eventually got in to see her, because she wanted to speak to my uncle first, I was shocked. I've seen a lot of shit, and that was one of the hardest times that I've had to see her like that. And I don't think anything could have prepared me for it. Like, I've seen her come out after surgery, I've seen her dying, and yet seeing her in the bed like that, I've never felt so much pain, like looking at her. And it sounds so stupid saying it like that, but even then we could see that she didn't have long left. But she kept saying that, "Oh, we'll go out, we'll do this, don't worry, I'm gonna get better." And yeah, so when my brother got there, the Macmillan nurse took us aside and said, "We need to talk to you." And as anybody knows, when somebody says it like that, it's never going to be a good thing. So she took us into a room. Bearing in mind at this point, I'm sobbing my heart out. and Adam was trying to be strong because Mum needed somebody that wasn't crying. To be fair, while I was in the room, I didn't cry with her because I needed to be strong. But as soon as I left the room, I started sobbing. So that was interesting. And we got taken into this little room, and she sat us down and was like, "We need to talk about Karen." And we asked her some questions, and she'd explained what had happened overnight, and the fact that Mum had a massive bleed, and they nearly lost her a few times, and had they not had blood on hand to transfuse, she would have died. And that's quite hard because she wasn't meant to be in hospital that night. She was meant to be at home with me, and I know had she been at home and that happened, there would have been nothing I could have done, and it would have been horrific because she had a bleed the next day and I was there, and that was a small one compared to what she'd had the night before, and it was like a crime scene. It was hard, and that's one thing that I can't get my head around, that I was lucky in that respect because I didn't have to deal with that, and I didn't have to wake up to find my mum dead on the floor, because that was one thing that I always worried about, because she would always try and get up and go to the toilet by herself, even though she couldn't put weight on her legs, she would fall over. And I didn't sleep at all. I moved rooms so I could sleep in the room next to her so I could hear her get up, and there'd be times when she would just, like, you could hear her just crying out because she needed the toilet, and she'd try to get up herself and she couldn't, and it's just hard. So anyway, we got taken into this room and we got told about the bleed, and my brother then asked how long she had left, and Mum has never wanted to know how long she had left. It was always, it'll happen when it happens, but I'm going to be here for your wedding, your graduation, your child, like, I'm going to be here for a long time. Because she'd always fought it. Like 13 years she'd fought it. And my brother asked her, and she looked at us, and you could see how much it hurt her. Like, this was her job, and it wasn't just a case of, oh, whatever. You could see how much it hurt her to have to say 2 weeks. And she did say that some patients, this is just what they say when she sees people like this. This is how long they usually last. And she was like, well, it could be longer, don't worry, I might be wrong, I hope I'm wrong, but I really don't think I am. And Mum didn't want to know, so we all had to sit in the room talking to her, knowing that she'd had a death sentence put on her head, and we had 2 weeks left with her. And knowing that you've only got 2 weeks with somebody that you were meant to have for 20 years, it's difficult. So we asked her what she wanted to do, and her main thing was she wanted to come home. She didn't want to stay in the hospital. She didn't want to go to the hospice because that's where people went to die, in her mind. And when I was younger, my grandfather, he had heart problems, he had heart transplant, and they messed his care up towards the end, and she didn't want to suffer like that. And that was her main thing. But I knew myself that I couldn't cope with her at home, and that's, as harsh as that sounds, I knew I couldn't. I struggled for so long, and had she wanted to come home that badly, and had people been able to be there to help me, I would have done it. But the fact that I didn't have the support, I had my A-levels, I was left quite on my own, because my brother had his life, and as much as he wanted to be there and as much as he kept coming over to spend time with us, he was going to lose his job and he couldn't do that to his family. And my grandma wasn't well enough. And it's like, in this situation, there was a huge lack of support because there's nothing people can do. So the Macmillan nurse said to us that the best option would be the hospice. And at the QE, they have a hospice on site. And Mum was adamant she wasn't going. But the nurses kept having to go there and being like, well, why don't you have a look at it? We'll send Adam and Abby. They can go and have a look, they can take some photos, they can show you. And then like they'll tell you truthfully what it's like. And so Adam and I went across, had a look at it, and it was definitely the best option. So we went back, we told Mum, we told her about how nice the nurses were, how much she would fit in and not feel like she was a burden, because she was always concerned about feeling like a burden with me. And so the next day she got moved when she was stable across, and she spent 2 weeks there to the day. So we asked her when she was there what she wanted to do, a sort of bucket list, and one of the things that she'd always said she wanted to do was see me in a wedding dress, because I think even though she wouldn't admit it to herself, she knew that she was dying and that she wouldn't see me get married. So she said that she wanted to watch the sunrise, she wanted to see as much of her grandson as she could, and she wanted a Chinese. So obviously she wanted so much more, but and she wanted to see me grow up, and knowing that she couldn't was one of the hardest things. So my godmother was going on holiday a few days into Mum being at the hospice, and we all knew Mum didn't have long. We all agreed that it would be 2 weeks, and so my godmother went behind my mum's back and organised a wedding trip. So we didn't tell Mum about this, and we kept it a secret as long as we could. So when it came to it, we all went out to the metro for me to try on a wedding dress, so she would at least see me in a dress before she died. And we said if she felt okay, then we would also go and have a Chinese, because she was adamant she wanted one. So we told her about it and she didn't stop smiling, and she sat the entire time being like, oh, it's the wedding dress day tomorrow. She told all the nurses, and I stayed over that night, and she every so often she would wake up, tap my hand and be like, Abby, it's tomorrow. And the look of happiness on her face from that small thing, it was a day. It was a very emotional day as well. So we went, found the wedding dress, and she didn't stop smiling. She kept falling asleep, sitting in a wheelchair, just this huge grin plastered on her face. And it's one of my most treasured memories with her. Just seeing her looking so happy. Just being content. Having her family around her. And being with us. That was enough for her. So we sat down at the table and she turned around and said, I've got everything I need here. I've got my family, I've got my food. And in the end, that's all that really matters. Having your family. We took Harry in to see her, it's the grandson, as much as possible, and I think he knew something different about her, because with everybody else he'd be up running around. He had his little walker thing because he couldn't walk yet, and he would go running around the hospital. All the nurses loved him, but you'd put him next to Mum and he would just lie down and fall asleep, just snuggle in with her. We got the call Wednesday afternoon, and they said, essentially, they said she's not dead, but you need to come in. So we went in, and she just kept asking us if Mum had died, and I think at the time she was asking if she was dead because she was so confused, she didn't know who she was. And it was hard seeing her like that. It was hard seeing my mum, who had grown up. She used to run with me to school. She used to do everything, and she was reduced with the cancer to just sitting there. And one thing I am always grateful for, I always will be, was my godmother's daughter. She went in the Wednesday, and she'd been sitting with her, and she stayed there until we got there. And it's something that, it's such a small gesture, and I've said it to her before, but you can tell it makes the world of difference to me. So we got told to go home on the Wednesday, and that they'd call us if anything happened. And I knew going home that I wouldn't see her alive again. We got the call 6:30 on the Thursday morning, saying that things had changed and we needed to get there now. And we got there, and as we pulled up, she died. The nurses said that they heard our car door slam, and that was it. And while I wasn't there for her, I don't think she would have let us, because she never wanted us to feel any pain. She never wanted us to suffer because of her, and I don't think she would have let us off go had we been there. The nurses were sitting with her, and I had bought a little glass ornament when we went for shopping, and they had that in her hand. But the most startling thing about the whole thing is how peaceful she looked, and that's something that helps a lot, because nobody wants to die, and Mum had so much more too, but seeing her look so peaceful and finally pain-free, it's made it a lot easier, especially after the time she had in the hospice, because she loved her there, and I can't fault them for it. She loved it there. The nurses treat her with such respect, and dignity. And it's hard. It's my first year at uni. I sat my exams and ended up at my uni, so life works out. Harry's growing up. He's just started to learn how to walk, bless him. And I don't think people realise the importance of family sometimes. Like, sometimes, don't get me wrong, they're absolute shits. But sometimes you don't know what you've got till it's gone. But I've been staying with my godmother when I go back up. And a sister, even if she does push me off when we're busy playing Mario and I've picked my phone up, which is a bit rude. I'm still salty about that. Harry's growing up. Adam's growing up. We're all getting on with it. I think in this situation it's something that's the only thing you can do. You either stop and get stuck, or you carry on. And it is one of the worst feelings. It is the worst feeling I've had in my life. And it's something that will stay with me for the rest of my life. But it's not something that I'm gonna let stop me. Like, I'm at uni now. I've got a job. I've got some great friends. And for the first time, start to really be happy. And I can live my life. And it's okay to admit that. It's okay to say that they weren't great times. That she wasn't the perfect person. That's okay. She was my mum. And that was the most important thing. The lighting in this shot, because I started it when the sun was just past my window, so I thought I'd be okay, but then I started talking for too long. Well, I started crying for too long, and now when I sit back to where I started, I'm just in the sun. I'm that pale you can't see me. So, apologies for that.